now let's shift gears and look at our podcast feature for the week. And I've actually featured Sally Mcrae once before, her Choose Strong podcast. I'm going to do it again because I really like the person she interviewed. Triple Crown winner Killian Korth from 2025, and he has a documentary coming out as well. And I can't wait to see that. I think it's a documentary on his Triple Crown from 2025. He won the three big races. I think it's Bigfoot, Cocodona, and one other one. I don't know the ultra scene that well, but this episode was episode, let me see if I got my notes. Yeah, episode 147, From Failure to Triple Crown Champion. And if you're not following Killian Korth's social media or Substack, he does have a Substack, I would. This dude's a beast, and he's really thoughtful as well. I really relate to the things that he says, and there's certain aspects of his life that I don't relate to, the swimming specifically, but a lot of he seems like a very thoughtful, intellectual type person who's doing these ultras, and I think that perspective, like, it's the first time I was listening to somebody who does ultras, and I was like, oh, I get it. Let me say this. There's one thing about people who do trail running and ultras that I don't necessarily relate to, and it's like this thing where you're on a mountaintop and you see a sunrise. I'm not a big nature guy. I don't hate it, but it's not something that, I like clouds and sunrises and stuff just as much as the next guy, but it doesn't seem to capture me the way it captures these trail runners who, after 100 miles, can see a sunrise and then run another 100 miles. That's like, whoa, okay. So it doesn't have that kind of invigorating element to me personally. But I just clicked my mouse and I was afraid I shut something off. But listening to him talk about like not running in groups and just his whole process with ultra running and trail running, I was like, I get where he's coming from. Like it seems to me like he has an active mind, and he is definitely somebody I can relate to in the ultra scene. And he's also had a lot of struggles and difficulty along the way, which all these trail runners do. All these ultra runners do have their own challenges. But in this episode, they talk a lot about, I think it was like 2 hours long, so it'd be great for a long run or a long trip, whatever. Just a really good, the podcast Choose Strong is great. Sally Mcrae I didn't know this when I first found her on Substack and Instagram, but she is big into the ultra community. She has a great podcast, interviews really great people, has a lot of knowledge base to share. She's been in it for a long time. And Killian, her interviewing him, it's just exciting because he's very successful at it, but he's also failed a lot too. So it's nice to see and hear his perspective on that struggle. And I think a lot of times we look at a guy like Killian who is a Triple Crown winner, and you go, wow, he's just successful all the time. It's like, no, there's a process to this. And I think getting that full picture I think it's important to people who do decide to start doing endurance running and ultra running, but also just anybody who's trying to become good at anything, like seeing how this process of how failure leads to success, leads to failure, leads to success, like, and how you mentally navigate that is very powerful. And there was I wanted to share one clip from the episode that I really enjoyed the clip itself, but Sally and Killian are talking about like controlling the controllables, and I really liked Killian's perspective on it. But overall, as a whole, just definitely, having only done marathons at this point, and in the back of my mind someday maybe doing an ultra, there are moments in these races where you find yourself just really wrestling with the circumstances. And at my last race, one of the things that got me frustrated right before the race was totally uncontrollable, and yet it really ate away at me. It was the fact that when I got to a great place to go to the bathroom before, I think a half an hour beforehand. And there was somebody in there who just would not leave. Like I even knocked on the door and all this stuff. It got me really frustrated. And it bothered me. And I'm not saying it affected my race at all, but I think I used mental energy that I could have leveraged in the race that maybe I would have been able to finish the full marathon. I don't know. But as I was listening to this and I thought about some of the little things that get under my skin sometimes, it just had me thinking to myself, like, there's a mental aspect to life in general, but also running, endurance running, that you have to train that as well. Okay. And so it's not just about having the physical capability. You have to have the mental ability to focus on what you can fix and adjust. So here's a clip from the Choose Strong podcast. I'm going to try to get this right. I've been having some trouble with the tech today, but hopefully this will come through exactly how I need it to.
We're met with.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes life a lot harder is like, I can't control, like I can't control this, but also like, I can't do this anymore. And it's like, but you can.
Yeah. Very well said. I think I've said about 200-mile race though. I'm like, I think I can control 30% of the variables. So I'm going to focus on those 30% and I'm going to have them as dialed as humanly possible. Like everything I can do to make that 30% perfect, I will do. But the other 70%, I don't care. Like stuff's going to happen. It's all okay. It's fine. And I think if you translate that to life, you get to 10, 20%, whatever the amount you can control is I think when people overstep their bounds and they're trying to control 50%, or 80 or whatever, and you go too far, I think that's kind of where neuroticism, anxiety, like all of those things start to much more easily take hold because you're ultimately just dealing with stuff that's so much bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can focus on, your circle, it's like I think that's the key.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of your strengths is your
I really like the way he encapsulated that at the end there, where he talked about how if you can just focus on your circle, the things that you can control, then you can kind of avoid some of these issues. And when he talked about moving from 30% to 50% and saying like that's where the anxiety comes from, I don't know that the anxiety, it comes from trying to control what you can't control, or even spending mental energy on things that you can't actually affect. And I definitely am guilty of that. It's like if you're in a run, and like for me personally, when my hamstring pulled on me, I do think that was within my control, but at that moment it wasn't. So like I probably should have done things differently leading up to that point, but in general, it was within my control. So that's frustrating on a certain level. But when I look back on what went wrong at that last marathon, once my hamstring pulls like that, you can only control what you can control. So I had choices. I could walk, 17 miles, or I can call it, take as much of a win as I can and heal up. And that's what I did. So I think that perspective on really just focusing on what you can fix right now is super important, and not letting the other things get to you. But it's hard. It's hard not to let those things get to you, and rather than let them just get to you and trying to control them, learning from the aspects where maybe you got distracted by one thing that you couldn't control and then you missed something you could have. I think that balance is super important. But highly recommend the Choose Strong podcast, and specifically this episode with Killian Korth. It was episode 147. Sally Mcrae discussing ultra running, the Triple Crown, failure, success, and for those who watched Cocodona this year, he was second to Rachel Entrekin, so kind of went a little bit unnoticed. He was the number one male, but because Rachel had such fanfare around her, he came in second. And if you listen to this episode, you'll find out why, not necessarily why he came in second, but one of the factors was he had a pretty serious injury, and he is now out for, I think, for a year. He's had surgery. Like I said, I don't fully understand the medical side, as I mentioned in my stretching and stuff. So, you'll have to listen to the podcast to figure that out. But yeah, highly recommend that episode. Focus on what you can control. And as your goals and your dreams get bigger and bigger, your focus needs to get narrower and narrower, I think, on less distracted on the things you can't control and focused on the things you can. So.
No quit. Building their wall. While they talk about us. Educated. Experienced. Still not credible. So we embraced it. Now we're uncredible.